Uh, Devesh D. Makhijani, sir, is a finance and treasury professional with extensive experience in investment management, wealth management, private banking, and financial markets. At Darusha, he is involved in investment management and treasury related advisory services. Prior to joining Darusha, he held leadership roles with organizations including Kotak Wealth Management and JM Financial Services. He is actively engaged in academia as a visiting faculty member and researcher and is currently pursuing doctoral studies at SVKM's Narsimhanji Institute of Management Studies. His areas of interest include treasury management, financial markets, investment strategy, and corporate governance. We welcome Devesh sir over here. Devesh sir, over to you now.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Firstly, thank you to the team for inviting me for this session. It's always a pleasure to be speaking to youngsters like all yourselves in this class. I think today the agenda was pretty simple and we have our task very well cut out. The intent is, as I've already been introduced, I've been a part of the workforce now for over a decade. Uh, I found myself not too long ago as a part of the classroom on the other side as a student. In fact, even as we speak, I am a student on the other side of the table elsewhere whilst I'm pursuing my doctoral thesis and the work that I do around that. So there, I do find myself on the other side of the classroom as a student. But the intent of the session today was my simple way to be able to give back what I have learned in the course of the last couple of years, at least from a career standpoint. What does it take to start out in the industry, and what does it potentially take to get to the next gen CFO? Presentation will be short, of course. We have 1 hour, but I'd like the class to be, or all the students around to be as participative and active as possible. So by a simple raise of hands, could I get a little sense, if you could raise your hands to these questions, how many of you would like to be rich? How many of you would like to be a CEO, entrepreneur, investor? And if someone would like to also uh, elicit or try giving me a little justification to why is it that you want to be one of these things? Does anyone want to unmute themselves and fancy an answer to the question and explain why?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I think being at a higher position is actually a safer job compared to other roles. That
Okay.
is the reason.
So when you say being at a higher position is safer than other jobs, like are you picking out only the CEO over here, or are you saying being an entrepreneur is just as good?
Entrepreneur as well, because having the own business is also a great thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Fair, fair. Any other answers? Any other thoughts?
We can help others.
Sorry?
Being rich or CEO or entrepreneur and an investor, we can earn money and help others.
That's fair. That's fair. So what comes to your mind as students when the first thing we speak about is finance? What is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Bank.
Sorry?
Bank.
Okay. What else?
Institutions like JP Morgan.
Institutions like JP Morgan. That's interesting. Somebody on chat says money management. Money. Okay. What else? Hmm. Audits. Okay. Bank credits, equity, Nifty, Sensex. Okay. Okay. So I think, okay, fair. So actually, finance is not so much about money as much as it is about decisions. And I'll be able to tell you, so coming specifically from the other side now for 10 plus years, I can tell you with a certain amount of confidence that finance is not about money or the availability of money. It's more about the decisions. Uh, Money is simply a scorecard. Whatever comes and stays in the bank, that's more like a scorecard. But uh, money will come and go, even from a CFO's desk. For instance, if you take the question which is up on your screen, if you were to have your own company and you were one of the four things that we discussed on slide one, that was whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a CEO, whether you're just simply rich or an investor, what would you do with the first 100 crores that you had in your bank account? Would you build another factory and create a business? Would you simply say, ki, okay, I see someone competing in the same industry that I am. I will take it upon myself to eliminate the competition by simply buying out competition. Another option is circling back and saying, chalo, let's spend a little more on marketing and product is already in order. And the last one is keeping cash. I see answers flooding the chat box. Let's see what people say. Hmm. Someone gives an interesting answer, says we give 25 to everybody. Hmm. Some of the most common answer that at least I am able to identify is option B. Most people are saying we would want to buy out competition. If you have to choose one, D is the worst one out of it, sitting on cash. Okay, interesting. Depending on need, of course. Hmm. We won't buy competition because we new competition. As well marketing. Okay, fair, fair. I get a fair sense of what you guys are saying. So, broadly, if you were to categorize what is it that a finance professional would do, and the reason why I'm also covering finance at this length is to sort of figure out that you guys also potentially looking to make long-term careers in finance, right? So, from that perspective, what to your mind are functions that finance professionals should be able to conduct, are functions that a finance expert should be able to do independently so that they're able to build a successful career in finance. Anyone has thoughts on it? Any answers on it? What is it that the finance professional should be doing differently? Apart from what's on the slide, of course. Thoughts, anybody? Okay, I see some analyzing trends, manage money by making more apt decisions, focus on unit economics of the business. Okay, fair. So let's put into context today on what's happening in your country. So, for instance, one of the key challenges, if I was to ask you, what is the biggest challenge that India faces right now on a financial standpoint? Oftentimes, a lot of students would circle back and say that possibly we are seeing inflation is going to catch up very, very quickly. And why is inflation rising is because input costs are growing. There is certain turmoil on foreign exchange. There is certain turmoil on reserves. There is certain strains and constraints on the government's borrowing. Now, all of these macroeconomic parameters that I stated are, of course, the more obvious ones. But from your perspective as students, what is it that you can do to prepare to take yourself, at least to start heading in that direction? And the simplest answer to that, more often than not, what I find myself sharing with you guys is one thing you should be doing differently is okay, instead of me telling you what one thing you should be doing differently is, and instead of using the chat box, I'd appreciate if some of you would like to unmute yourself and take a chance or, elicit some answers. Uh, what, according to you, for a finance professional is an ideal breakfast? I see a lot of you folks oftentimes have started focusing more on self-care, health, etc., etc. So if you could tell me from your perspective for a 18, 19, 20-year-old, what the ideal breakfast is.
Oh, so can I speak?
Yeah, of course, Laksh. Please tell me.
One thing I must do is do the job or the work you want to do is do something you like or you do something you love. So from that perspective, the amount of work and the focus you have will automatically increase.
Okay. Okay. Fair.
Mm.
What else? Hmm. Mayank, you
Sir,
want to
may
say
I
something? Hitansh,
speak?
okay.
Sir, uh, he should build relations with others to get more knowledge to take better or best decisions.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Fair. I agree with that. But I'm still not getting the answer to the question. I'm saying, what is the ideal breakfast for someone at your place in life where you're just about to start out something
Sir,
that heads towards professional education and heads towards building careers?
uh, sir, may I speak?
Yes, of course, Mayank.
I think to make a best financial career and to improve, we
Hmm.
should be more handy with the numbers and we must be able to crunch any financial information given and to make best decisions. Like we should be able to see the balance sheet and decide the position of firm and etc.
Okay, okay. And yeah, okay, I'll put it very simply. It's a very popular quote, and if any of you have reached a place where you started watching CNBC in the morning, or Z Business in the morning, or any of this, that's great. If you haven't, please find yourselves some time uh, to start tracking what's happening in the news. So, oftentimes you'd find finance professionals saying this to each other that आज मैंने breakfast पे दो newspaper खाए. I mean, what you should be looking at the start of your day at this stage in life is start consuming newspapers and start consuming knowledge like it's nobody else's business. Early on, it feels extremely difficult. It feels extremely tricky. It makes very little sense to you on what you're reading. It does not tend to add up. The two and two does not make a four every time. But possibly 6 months into this journey where you start getting a hang of what's happening in current affairs, what's happening in real world, there is no career option that is available to you in life, almost no career option available to you where you are not aware of what's happening in the real world. And the right time to start with that, ideally, for you is today. And hence, the input that comes to you, the input that comes to a financial decision maker oftentimes is real world news flow. Let me give you an example. So, for instance, today, if I am setting up a company, I'm setting up a new company in a new industry altogether, and the question was put to me that I have 100 crores available, what is the stance that I would like to take? The four options, for instance, that were available were that I build a factory. Second is my option was to buy competition. The third option that was available was spend on marketing. And fourth option was to keep cash. Whilst somebody in the chat did say that option D could potentially be the worst answer, where I am sitting at, I am building a framework in my head that is it ideal in this kind of macroeconomic environment to be sitting on cash, have capital available and waiting for an opportunity, or does it make more sense today to enter into something which is already big and important? So let me flesh it out a little more for you. So let's say I am already in a particular industry which is struggling because of the external war situation, the external geopolitical situation. Uh, and any change in this circumstance could significantly impact the business, which means that my business is highly volatile with respect to whatever happens in the war. So, for instance, if the business that I am getting into is a travel agency and my option is to use that 100 crores to buy a competitor of Make My Trip, my answer to that would be that I would possibly much rather be sitting on cash than deploying into that business, because there could be something that could significantly change in the outcome of this business in the next weekend and the next 10 days, with something materially changing, which could impact my ability to let my customers travel, which means I'm carrying a significant business risk. I would much rather be sitting on cash and be prepared for an opportunity rather than become a participant in the market and put my sum, that is 100 crore rupees, at risk. On the flip side, if I am in the business of providing something that is scarce in the current macroeconomic cycle, so for example, it has been slightly more difficult to get chemicals because of logistical shipment issues arising as an outcome of the war. So the expectation is, let's say, products such as sulfur, a very simple thing, a chemical called sulfur, which is an input for multiple industries. It has been very, very difficult to procure that. Uh, I currently have somebody in the country, a company which is competition, available for buyout, has a certain amount of capacity. Typically, the valuation of this company is about 80 crores. In this kind of market, because their sales have gone up or they're selling the product slightly more expensive, the valuation has moved a notch up to 100 crores. I would potentially still see value in it and say that this is the business that I want to grow. This is a business I'd like to take on. I'd be happy to buy out this company at 100 crores, buy out competition, and take it with me and make it grow. Because potentially, even after the war ends, on the flip side, let's assume the war ends and everything changes very, very quickly. Sulfur, for example, is a second order impact of war. The first order impact of war is crude. Crude oil is not easily available, which means there is an energy crisis. Second order effect of war is uh, the fact that travel and tourism is impacted in some pockets. Logistics has started to get expensive in certain other sectors which have nothing to do with the geography of what is under impact today, purely because of demand and supply economics, just for the simple reason that there is an escalated cost of insurance on shipments. The second order effect is also that because of things getting expensive over here, crude getting expensive, transportation has become expensive of raw materials within the India landmass as well, which is causing food inflation. And something as distant as that is also a second order effect of a war, right? All of these things, when you evaluate as a professional in finance, you could be doing multiple things. You could be doing something as simple as looking at balance sheets, or just simply start by uploading all transactions that have taken place on Tally. I mean, that could be step one in somebody's career, while uh, when you make it all the way to becoming the CFO of the organization or the CEO or an entrepreneur where the financial decisions depend on you, uh, what you're potentially going to be doing at that end towards the later parts of your career is actually going to be making decisions on large sums of capital and just these inputs, the basic transaction inputs, are no longer relevant. It's actually the external macros that start making a difference. So questions such as what is the expected outlook? What are the kind of risks my business could face with the war? What if the war gets over? What are the next potential risks I'm seeing in the rest of the world? Because whilst the West Asia conflict is possibly going to see light at the end of the tunnel, lower than listed costs of $80 a barrel or $75 a barrel. At that point in time, what kind of tariffs come into play again by the US? Because the US today has said that they've given a relaxation on tariffs on purchase of Russian oil. So there are still those questions that remain open, and those sort of things start becoming important. And that is where I circle back to what I was saying. As a student of finance, as a person who's going to be making a career in and around that domain, it is very, very important to be aware of what is happening around you. The simplest way to be aware of what is happening around you is actually looking at two or three newspapers every morning. If not two or three, at least start out with one. Uh, my recommendation on newspapers to you is possibly you could look at starting with the Mint. That's, in my opinion, the simplest one to start reading. Uh, you have options, of course, in the form of Economic Times and FT and Business Standard, etc. I think the Mint is the simplest one if that's your starting point. I personally look at Business Standard and Mint every morning. So that's one starting point where you should be at. Uh, Going back to the slide that I was at, uh, there are particular aspects. Okay, somebody's saying network issue. Am I not clear, or am I not audible to you guys?
You are audible now, sir.
I'm audible now, but
Yes.
you missed out on something, or
One, no, no, no. Just one sentence in the mid.
just one sentence?
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Do you want me to pause, and does anyone have questions on what I have said so far?
No, sir.
No. Okay, then we carry on. Uh, Circling back to the point that I was making, that the CFO, of course, has a bunch of responsibilities and roles to execute, right from something as simple and common as year-round tax planning to looking at compensations, looking at expenses on resources, whether you look at budget, you look at planning a treasury function, forecasting cash flows. All of this becomes a very, very important aspect for an organization, and hence, oftentimes, uh, in the last 20-25 years, there has been a cycle that you would see. Uh, Oftentimes, it would happen that the best salesperson or the CMO or the marketing head of the organization would typically go on to become the next CEO of the organization. Today, you're seeing that trend change significantly. So today it is more common that you see a risk officer or an officer from the financial services team or the finance team goes on to lead the business as CEO, purely for the simple reason that whilst finance has been looked at as an area of operational excellence for a very, very long time, today finance becomes a key, it is the raw material to most businesses. And with finance being used correctly, being optimized in budgeting across pieces. So that is where large companies, boards are seeing and identifying that the CFO is potentially the next person who's going to be ready to lead the next phase of growth for organizations prudently, and hence the CFO is looked at as the next CEO. What are the various entry points uh, in the industry for all of you? From your perspective, you could be looking at various things. You start from something as simple as taxation advisory, accounts, audit, controllership, treasury as a function, risk consulting, asset management. Asset management, again, we're going to cover all of these small pieces one by one. But broadly, these are the various functions that are available. These are the various career options that are available from a financial services uh, perspective, right from consulting to tech, everything comes under the ambit. A lot of you will consider and evaluate, if you already haven't done work around this, whether you want to pursue a CA, whether you want to pursue a CFA, whether you want to pursue an MBA, whether you want to do a master's in whatever form or function on data. Uh, Maybe you choose to diversify over a period of time and start looking at other pieces. Today, oftentimes you see a lot of younger folks like yourself also spending time in learning languages like Python, and say that, we are going to see how to visualize financial data for a very simple reason. We want to understand and simplify a decision-making framework. Another question that a lot of young folks like yourself are grappling with is, am I entering a field that is at a risk of getting replaced by artificial intelligence? In the next 15 minutes, I will try and answer not only these 10 potential verticals that are up here apart from entrepreneurship, but also on what role that you play with AI still around. We'll take one function at a time. The first one is treasury. Uh, Treasury is a function which I find myself playing an active role in, but I'll give you a little more color and context to what a treasury does in the real world. In the treasury team, if you were to go from campus and start and take up a job in the treasury team, a treasury uh, personnel or a treasury professional is expected to contribute to one of the six functions on finance. One aspect is manage banking relationships. And when I say manage banking relationships, right from looking at borrowing from banks to keeping money in deposits with banks at a certain rate of interest to looking at foreign currency exchange with banks, all of this is a part of the banking relationship. Apart from that, the treasury also has to take a call and a decision that if we are into the business of import, export, or for whatever reason we deal in foreign currency, we need to have a view on exchange rates. So on exchange rates, for example, if I am a company which is an exporter and I am saying that I'm selling something in the market for $1, today while making the sale, my expectation is that I should get 95 rupees for it. What happens in reality is when you place an order, there is a window and there is a period of credit that is given out. When I say period of credit, अगर आपने आज order दिया, आपने आज product भेज दिया India से, and you're delivering this product to the United States. Oftentimes, if the product is a physical good, it takes almost 40 to 45 days to be shipped from the coast of Mumbai all the way to US. It could take much longer as well. The assumption is you're a large scale business manufacturing something large enough that requires cargo transport. Now, when the shipment reaches the United States, उसके बाद there is another 15 days that takes for the money to come through. उसके बाद there's also potential that you give the customer 6 months का window beyond that कि after 6 months you can pay me. These are large businesses which oftentimes find themselves doing that. Large construction companies, large manufacturing companies, automakers, etc. What happens in this situation is today the dollar is 95. By timing I realize the money that comes to me, the dollar could be 100 or it could be 90. As a business, am I willing to take the risk कि दो डॉलर के साथ हो उस हिसाब से I make profit? The answer is no. I need to make a decision that I am going to get the money. Today I'm sitting on 24th of June or 25th of June. I am going to get the money on 1st April 2027. I need to have visibility in rupee terms because I'm running a business in India कि कितना पैसा account में आएगा. So the treasury guy has to make that decision whether he or she is going to hedge, book a forward. Now, all of these things you will obviously get a little more texture on in the course of your academics over the next couple of years. But broadly, you can have an option to say कि on 1st April, the bank commits to you that you will get 100 rupees per dollar or you'll get 90 rupees per dollar, on the basis of which you can decide the pricing. whether you want to sell it for $1 or you want to sell it for $1.20 or you want to sell it for 90 cents. That option remains with you, right? So a treasury decision maker will give you the banking inputs, and then obviously the procurement team, the sales team can price the product accordingly. Similarly, on commodities, your input, for example, if you're exporting a car, metals is something that you keep buying. Crude, for example, is something that you keep buying. The treasury has to decide whether they have forward contracts in place for all of this or not. When you start out your careers, you start as an analyst, purely studying market events, purely tracking any and everything that is relevant to your business that comes into the newspaper. That's literally the job that a treasury analyst is doing for the first 3 or 6 months in their career. And as they go up, they start making decisions with those news flows. As you climb up the ladder within treasury, looking after every cash flow becomes your problem. And once you're an expert in treasury, you're senior enough. If that role means a lot more in the organization and you win at that role, you're possibly in line to become the CFO of the organization. Coming to the second piece over here, that is FP&A, that's planning and analysis. Uh, Again, cash flow planning, budgeting, looking at uh, timing of the flow of money, ALM studies. All of this become critical parts of planning and analysis. The next one is controllership and audit. We look at both of these with a similar lens, where a controllership is looking at it from a risk management perspective, looking at it from a perspective that, so usually in a organizational hierarchy, you would see the CFO, you'll see a director of finance, these guys are on top. The head treasury, the financial controller typically would be a part of the CFO's core team, who are looking at all of it. Then you have the controllership, audit, and risk management, which typically are working together. And there are various programs, there are various certifications available which you can actually take on for risk, for becoming a risk officer and starting your career as far as that is concerned. From risk also, there are various types of risk that you need to be analyzing, right from looking at price risk to actual process risks. All of it is covered in the risk management vertical. Again, oftentimes you'll find risk as a function which is worked in collaboration with external consultants. Uh, your big fours of the world are oftentimes looked at with as much respect as they are, because they are able to project certain kind of risks and certain kind of blind spots in the industry, which these guys are able to bring to the fore, bring your attention to it. Then the next piece is, of course, investment banking, which is the most um, popular, and oftentimes I find interacting with students where students find that to be the most lucrative uh, industry to be a part of. Now, investment banking could have various forms of functions, but broadly, the job of an investment banker is to bring in transactions into a company, in the sense whether you want to. So, as an investment banker, there are two or three things you could be doing. One is, the most common thing that you see is raising money for organizations. So let's say all of us come together and we create our own startup called ABC Limited and we want to go public. There are two options. One is you can raise equity, one is you can raise fixed income or debt. You can borrow debt. In borrowing debt, you have an option to borrow debt either from a bank or you can borrow it from a broader forum. And when I say broader forum, you can do it in the form of borrowing debentures. So the guys who work on debentures broadly are the merchant bankers who work in debt capital markets. The guys who do equity are your popular investment bankers. For example, you'll see the National Stock Exchange IPO coming up soon, and they've got a record of 24 plus investment bankers bringing 30,000 crore IPO to the market. Typically, what an investment banker would do is everything right from audit to compliance to bringing valuation to looking at anchor investors to doing road shows, basically making whatever information that is relevant for the ones who are bringing the equity or the instrument to the market, to bringing all the facts, figures available to your regulators like SEBI, the stock exchanges, to your investors. Everybody, there are investment bankers who are looking at each and every aspect of it. Of course, there are various roles and functions, and when you start out, you will possibly be a part of one of these teams if you are in investment banking. And then as you move forward, you actually start building an understanding across all of these verticals. The next one is asset management. Asset management is becoming very, very popular. The concept of equity in India has garnered a lot of momentum. Back in 2016, post demonetization, digital currency became very common. There were multiple advertising campaigns that ran which said mutual fund sahi, and that actually made it pretty pretty interesting how uh, youngsters of that generation actually started diverting a lot of their savings or a lot of their bank balances towards monthly SIP commitments. So broadly, back in 2016, you would see about 3 to 4 thousand crores of SIPs going in on a monthly basis. Today, that number is tenfold at about 30,000 crores. Asset management, hence, as an industry, has grown where there is a larger pool of investments which are available. Asset managers का काम यही है कि you take that money and you manage it for the investors. Whether you do it across debt, you do it across equity, you do it across alternate investments. Today, there are alternate investments such as REITs, InvITs available, and whilst it will be covered academically for you, and these words might sound alien to you, but for example, some of you must have seen this Express Towers building at Nariman Point, right behind the Air India building. That building is not owned by one person. Today, you can actually own a part of that building for as little as 400 rupees. So there is something called as Embassy REIT. REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. So as an instrument, interestingly, what they did is uh, they took on that building, they put that building into a trust, and that trust sold out units in the stock exchange. Uh, and you and me individually could participate in that. How do you and I make returns? One is uh, basis a consensus, basis an opinion, the price of that REIT unit changes. Second is whatever rent is collected by the occupants of that commercial real estate building, that rent is paid out to you and me as unit holders. So that is the kind of instruments that are available. So obviously there are real estate assets which are available. There are fancier instruments like highways also which collect tolls, that is also given out to people. So that's the kind of depth that is available or the nuance that is available in the asset management industry. Of course, fintech remains an interesting piece where I said that you have an option to use tech uh, and bring it to a decision-making framework tool where fintech becomes a simple instrument of aid for you. Uh, AI, of course, is the buzzword, and oftentimes one would imagine a CFO to look like the gentleman on the left of my screen back in the day, when our parents, potentially were in line to make their careers in this segment. Whilst today, you have a lot of tech tools available, very limited paper is used actually today in the industry. One thing you need to understand, your competition is not AI. Your competition is actually someone who knows how to use AI much better than you do. So I don't think we need to worry about AI taking away anybody's jobs, because if it's doing anything, what is happening realistically now, just think of it. Uh, India as a workforce today has the maximum population in the world in the working class or in the working generation, in that sub 30-year-old group. That number is going to change drastically in the next 25 years. Uh, if you look at most studies which do population data statistics and the demographic data statistics, it tells you that uh, the generation of our parents possibly were having 1, 2, 3 children, whilst the current generation is not having even one. At max, they're having one. What happens as an outcome of that? The number of people available for work reduces. If you look at past generations, oftentimes you would see people working with the same company for 20, 30, 40 years because there was a concept of loyalty. part A, but part B, there were so many people that people wanted to protect their jobs and actually stay rather than being significant risk takers. Over a period of time, you're possibly going to see that kind of unskilled labor disappear from the market. There's going to be broadly a bunch of skilled, employable people available in the market, but वो unskilled वाला part जो है, that starts disappearing. When that starts happening, you need technology to replace them. There are not going to be so many people available, so it's not that, farmers, there are too many people who are farming in the country and they have nothing to do. What is happening today is that a lot of farmers' children have gone on to study, educate themselves, bring them part of the service workforce. What happened is that it's not that that as an industry started suffering. Technology came in, tractors came in, drip irrigation came in, irrigation systems came in where people didn't have to go in physically and do it, right? It's not that those guys are not finding themselves alternate options. The ones who are educated know what else to do in life. The same thing is going to happen even with respect to AI. In fact, it already is happening. I can tell you, looking at my office, looking at the workforce that we recruit, I in fact get about 20 to 25 management associates as a part of my team every year. And we haven't reduced. In fact, even in a year like this, we haven't delayed anybody's joining. In fact, we got them early this year. Even next year's campus looks the same. We're going to go and recruit maybe instead of 25 next year, I'm looking at 30 people. Uh, but now we intend those 30 to be able to be 1.2 times more productive for a very simple reason that they have technology. So they're not going to have to do repetitive tasks on their own that gets outsourced to AI and other tech. What they're going to do is apply their minds to grow the business bigger. Today, as a business, I run a function where we manage close to 2 trillion rupees. That's 2 lakh crores of assets under advice. My intent is to be at 5 in the next 3 years. I intend to take my business to 2.5 times. In the last 3 years, we've doubled our business. So if that's the rate of growth that we're looking at, of course, we need more people and we need more skilled people who know how to use and leverage technology. So वो जो scaling होता था earlier in startups where you would say the 0 to 1 and the 1 to 100 can happen only in a small younger company. Today, with the advent of technology, you can see much larger organizations like mine, which have been around for 100 years, finding the visibility to scale. So, I mean, oftentimes you will say that India का सबसे बड़ा company is Reliance, TCS, HDFC Bank. You put together the top all of the Nifty 50 companies, you put together their market cap versus you look at the number one company listed in United States, we still don't make it over there put together, right? That tells you something. It's not that those companies are much in realistically, yes, they are more valuable because they're catering to a much larger global audience, but over a period of time, you will realize that just by the sheer volume of population that we have, there's a reason why Tesla wanted to sell in India, right? Because even if the smallest market share goes to them, the number of sales that they'll have by sure, I mean, 1/6 of the world population is with us, right? So that elicits a case for people wanting to come to India and do business. You only have to see the opportunity. So, I'm stopping to share that's broadly what I wanted to cover from a presentation perspective. I am happy to take questions. I think somebody has posted a question in the chat box to me that as a VP of an investment firm, how does your day look like? So let me just give you some context on myself while somebody was kind enough to give an introduction for me. I'll give you a little more texture and color. I'm Devesh Makhijani. I am the Vice President for the Investment and Treasury function at Darashaw. Um, I started out by studying and pursuing a degree in information technology. Uh, I'm actually a software engineer, post which I pursued an MBA in finance from Sydenham Institute of Management Studies. I completed my MBA as a gold medalist for my batch, post which I started my career with Citibank. I worked for about a couple of years with Citibank, a couple of years with Kotak Private Banking, and now I've been with this firm called Darashaw. I've been here for about a little over 4 years. As a vice president of investment management, what my role actually entails is this, that I head the treasury investment management function for my company. So when I say I head the treasury investment management function, what it means is that we have clients. For example, there are listed companies who are clients of ours. If I can take the liberty to name a few, I'm sure you would have heard of uh, CBSE. Some of you would also be from the board, right? CBSE Education Board. Now they are an autonomous body who carry up, so they obviously collect fees, exam fees, etc., and government grants, etc., come to them. So they have a portfolio, let's assume, of $1 billion. Now, $1 billion portfolio that they carry with themselves, it's not that they just leave it in bank as fixed deposits, right? The government, whilst allocating those funds or whilst leaving those funds with them, allows them to invest only in certain instruments. They are only allowed to look at fixed deposits, government securities, certain category of corporate bonds, etc. There is a guideline which is in place, and they need to comply with that. And at the same time, they need to generate the maximum possible returns. Now, their core business is not actually investments. The core business of investments is mine. Hence, they choose to hire someone like me as a consultant to do this for them, or as an advisor to do this for them. Similarly, if you think of other organizations like Godrej, and they come back to us and say, we are in the business of chemicals. We make soaps. Synthol soap is, let's say, one of the primary businesses for Godrej consumer, for instance. They would circle back and say कि हमारा business ये है. We need to make sure cash is available, but we have a few hundred crores available in the bank at any given point in time, and current accounts give zero returns. Can you manage this for me and make some return on it vis-a-vis or without taking any risk? The answer to that is oftentimes yes. And we are able to. So, someone like Zomato is generating profits only from these kind of treasury income operations, not from actual business operations, right? If you look at the financials, they have non-operating income, and all of that is coming from the investment part. So that is broadly the kind of business we are in. A day for me looks like, typically I start my day at about 5:36 in the morning. I get a few newspapers and I really read cover to cover at least two newspapers every morning. I am at my workstation by 8:15 in the morning. Given that I head the business, I don't have to necessarily come to office. We have a hybrid structure. I still choose to come into office at least twice a week. So typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in office. Also, as an outcome of business, because I head it, we have a bunch of clients in Delhi, in Bangalore, in Chandigarh, in Calcutta. So every month, I spend the first week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Delhi. The next week, I would usually go on a Tuesday, Wednesday to Bangalore. The next week on the Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm in either Calcutta or Chandigarh or Chennai. Depends what region I need to visit and spend a little more time, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's with clients. Typically, my workday looks like this, that between 9 to 4, I would have my eyes on the markets. So when I say markets, I'm not looking at just the stock market. There are six numbers as a student of finance or a finance professional you should know at every given point in time to be able to track these macros. One is you should know Nifty 50, जो हमारा Nifty stock index है, वो कितना है. Second is you should know Government of India, government security, 10-year GSEC. कितने पे है? That gives you the visibility on what is the cost of funds for the Government of India. Third is you look at what is the gold price. That gives you a sense of how much of greed and fear is available in the market. And when I say available in the market, if gold is coming down, it gives you a sense of what kind of volatility you can expect or the kind of sentiment that is there in the market. You look at crude oil, what the price of that is, because we don't have our own energy resources in the country. We still import all of it. So we need to know what is the cost of that for the country. In fact, any and everything that impacts your life as far as money or expenses are concerned stems from crude oil prices today. Then you need to know what the USD INR is, that what is the cost of a dollar for you. And then if you get comfortable with these five parameters, start tracking the sixth one, which is called as India VIX, which tells you volatility index. So I'll voice it out again. What are the six parameters you should know at every point in time? First is you should know Nifty 50. Second is you should know 10-year government security. Third is you should know crude. Fourth is you should know oil. No, fourth is you should know uh, gold, you should know oil, you should know FX, and then you should know India Volatility Index. That's India VIX. So these are the pieces that you should know at any and every given point in time. Circling back to someone who was asking me what my day looks like, I'm at my desk by 8 in the morning, usually 8:15. 9 to 4, you track markets, you finish a few Zoom calls, you get a few calls in. Typically, after 4, between 4 and 7, I have two client meetings. And that's what most of my work day looks like, 7:30. There are at least 2 days a week that I end up also meeting clients for dinner, staying back a little late. So there are some late, long days. Oftentimes, when I'm not in the city and I'm traveling in and out, those days are, of course, much longer. Apart from the work that I do, I also enjoy teaching. So I come as a visiting faculty to a few campuses over weekends. I'm also pursuing my PhD, so usually I dedicate Saturdays to work around that. I also work with a Sindhi organization called the Amal Panchayat. I'm a trustee over there, so I spend some time on that. I'm also with one of the clubs in South Bombay. I'm a director at Radio Club, so I spend some time there as well. So that's what most of my day and week looks like. I see another
Sir,
question. Yes.
good evening.
Good evening.
Uh, so I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Which was the best and the worst financial decision that you have made?
Okay. The best financial decision I made was actually a very simple one. I keep my portfolio decisions very, very boring. My own investment portfolio is possibly the most boring portfolio you will ever see. I have just four mutual fund schemes in my portfolio, and I haven't changed those schemes now for the last 5 years. Uh, Consistency, I realize, is the key to it. The worst financial decision I made was trying to negotiate what my portfolio should look like and try to convince someone in the family कि आप भी ये invest कीजिए. You also look at it this way. I think these are a few things that I realize over a period of time, that just because I'm professionally good at something does not mean I want to use those skills with family and friends at any and every given point in time. Sometimes those decisions are just not the right place to mix. So yeah, possibly that.
So one more question.
Hmm.
Uh, so if you had to give us one life advice, what
Hmm.
would it be?
Yeah. To my mind, the thing that changed the trajectory of my career genuinely uh, is the newspaper piece. And it sounds very boring, it sounds very silly, it seems that ये शायद relevant नहीं है. But I come from a background in information technology as an engineer. So when I joined Citibank, I joined as a private banker at the Juhu branch, which is right next to Amitabh Bachchan's house. So today there's SBI over there, but that used to be Citibank the day I joined. Now, the team of guys who were managing Citigold, which was their wealth private banking proposition, we were a team of 7 people. Out of those 7 people, six of them were 35 plus. I was a new joinee, working for the first time in life, and I was, I think, 2016. So yeah, I was 22, 23 maybe back then. And I walk in there and I realized that none of these guys, because it was also a semi role which had competition amongst each other, right? Branch के उतने ही clients है. So if I get a client, I'm basically stepping on somebody else's toes to do business, right? And my boss was a 40-year-old gentleman, and he was not a big fan of working with management trainees and management associates. He used to say that's a very silly concept. We should get, for this kind of role, get someone who's senior, who looks a certain way, who looks a little older. Just imagine if I was to, if any of you were to go to somebody and say कि आप मेरे बोलने पे 5 crore इस म्यूचुअल फंड में डाल दीजिए, would that happen? Difficult, right? But that was what the job role was. And what differentiated and what changed my life was the fact that we used to have a huddle. When I say huddle, the team used to have a meeting every Monday morning at 9:30, where we would sit and we would discuss key, these are the products that we have, these are the underlying assets within that, and how is it that we can use this knowledge to increase revenue for our branch, or how is it that we can use this knowledge and these instruments to be able to give it to clients and sell it to clients and make fees on it. For the first 4 meetings, I didn't open my mouth. I did nothing. I was just there looking, listening. From the fifth meeting onwards, I started seeing the relevant stuff in the newspaper that would come up with respect to all of this. I would look at newspapers and find people who said stuff about all of these instruments. For example, if you all have heard of somebody called Mr. Neelkant Mishra, he's one of the renowned economists of our country. In fact, he finds himself on the World Bank. He's recently been appointed there. Now, this gentleman oftentimes is quoted in newspapers, and I would pick up those snippets and share it with the team कि इन्होंने भी ये बोला. So you know how people will say CNBC पे इसने ये बोला तो मैंने सुन के invest किया. I would bring out these snippets and share कि I read this in the newspaper, or I would share that I read this is happening, which means that this is the potential way the macros are evolving, and we can use this as a story to build and say that this is why you should invest in equity, or this is why you should invest in fixed income. That started the trend where my boss, who was addicted to chai, he would go out to the to the chai wala next to the branch. He would step out, get a smoke, and have his cup of tea over there twice a day. He made it a point that every time he would step out, he would tell me, "Hey, you come out with me and tell me what you read today." So a very simple thing like reading that newspaper and starting to share that, because it's a habit that very few people have. Unfortunately, when you go to a workforce and you look at your floor, you'll see most people saying, मैंने ट्विटर पे ये पढ़ा, मैंने इंस्टाग्राम पे ये देख लिया, मैंने ये हेडलाइन में ये पढ़ लिया. But the depth of it that comes from a newspaper, the ability to interpret it on a consistent basis when you start tracking, that beats everything. And that ability that I found in myself to have those conversations with my manager made a difference to the trajectory that I found myself following in the course of my career. Somebody has asked in the chat box, since AI is now capable of doing financial analysis, how do we protect our careers in finance? Oh, it's a very simple thing. AI can help in decision making, but it cannot take away blind spots what human beings are able to see today. So AI is a tool which will help you go 80-85% of the distance, but the last 15% is where the human excellence comes in. So you should be happy that it's uh, doing a lot of analysis and doing a lot of work. Uske आगे का decision is what makes us human, right? I mean, there must be a point in time जहाँ पे गैस माइक्रोवेव कुछ नहीं होता होगा, and there must be just bare fire and charcoal and wood, right? तब तो बहुत टाइम लगता था खाना बनाने को. तो cooks are not saying today that we are out of jobs because we have. Now they're saying we can do it more efficiently. Instead of making one meal, we're able to make 10 meals. I mean, it's a very crude example, but you think of AI as an assistant, not as a competitor. What is the difference between how finance is taught and how finance actually works? So you will learn whatever you do from an academic standpoint, but the industry works is reasonably different, to be fair. Uh, But of course, you need a very, very strong academic foundation to be accepted into the industry. To be very fair, as a recruiter, when I come to campuses, including your campus, the first thing I actually do every time I come to campus is I ask को मुझे syllabus copy देना, मैं उसमें से सवाल पूछूंगा. Because industry just looks at it कि you are paying fees to study what you are, right? So तुमने वो कैसे पढ़ा? And तुमने वो ठीक से पढ़ा, so then I can train you and make you ready for the industry. What will help you in reality to get to where you should is looking at certain kinds of certifications, consistently engaging on real world case studies, following newspapers. I'm saying this too many times, I know. Engaging with industry people, industry faculties, these are things that will help. What should we do so that my CV can stand out in a competitive area? They care from a CV perspective now. What we are looking at from the industry perspective is we're looking at characters. So it's a part of my pre-placement talk whenever I go, I say we are looking for the right attitude and then we hire for skill. So if you don't have the right attitude, you won't even make it to the so if you're a part of a good campus, like a good college like HR college, for example, we already know that certain part of academics are in place. We just need to see कि आप 0 to 1, 0, 1 आ गए. Have you gone that 1 to 1.5 and taken the few extra steps? The rest of it will come with the right attitude. We also know what we are dealing with, right? So don't be below par. I mean, you always try to say that today if my college is at rank 5, what can I do to take it to rank 1? And that will come as an outcome only of what students are delivering, right?
Sir, sir,
Like, next question I see is start on this. Yeah.
sir,
Is there any network issue?
I think sir के side पे network issue है. I see him in the meet. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. Or we call it today. Sorry? If someone's saying something, I can't quite hear.
sir,
Yeah.
if we
Yeah, you were
want
saying something,
to,
Utansh?
yes, sir, if we want to get more industrial experiences, what we should do.
Primarily, you should be looking at life projects. You should be looking at internships. You should be looking um, to be ready to, put in your best for the industry, because the industry almost to my mind, especially in this field that at least I am on this section, we are not very actively looking at interns being supremely value edited for a very simple reason that people are not willing to work hard. If you go to the industry, your end game should be ki, what can I do to contribute to the company for the company to want me to come back. Whilst a lot of folks from campuses are coming and saying that, हमें प्रोजेक्ट करना है सीवी पे लाइन के लिए, that's not something that industry is going to be thrilled with. So yeah, these are things you need to watch out for. Somebody asked, is there any certificates and do they look at
Sir, your voice is not audible clearly.
Yeah, they do look attractive, but then you have to the industry you're applying to. That's that. Should we call it a day?
Yes,
We've
sir.
sort of completed. So, okay.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much for your insights. Requesting ma'am to please go ahead with vote of thanks.
Yes, am I audible clearly?
Yes, you are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So it's my privilege to propose this vote of thanks on behalf of our HR College of Commerce and Economics. So first and foremost, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Devesh Makhijani for delivering such an insightful and enriching session. What makes today's session even more enriching is the blend of industry expertise and academic excellence that you bring, sir. The wisdom and industry insights shared today will undoubtedly inspire students to explore the dynamic world of finance with the greater confidence and clarity. I would also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our respected principal, Professor Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, ma'am, for her visionary leadership and continuous encouragement in creating opportunities that bridges academic learning with industry exposure. A special note of gratitude to our Vice Principal, Dr. Rani Tyagi ma'am, whose unwavering support and commitment towards holistic student development make such meaningful initiatives possible. We are equally thankful to Dr. Jasbir Sodi ma'am for her guidance and support in facilitating sessions that enhance students' professional knowledge and prepare them for future challenges. These initiatives reflect the institution's genuine concern for the future and career growth of its students. By organizing such industry oriented sessions, our college continues to empower students with practical insights, industry exposure, and the skills required to excel in an ever evolving professional landscape. I would also like to thank all the faculty members, the organizing team, and the students for their enthusiastic participation and contribution towards making the session a grand success. Once again, thank you, Mr. Devesh Makhijani, for sharing your valuable time, knowledge, and experience with us. We look forward to many more such enlightening interactions in the future. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Pleasure. All the best, everyone. Bye.
Bye.